ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to yet another edition of the Weekly Mod Zoo, or semi-weekly Mod Zoo for everyone who's been keeping score. Our live hangouts where we just sit around, gab about what's been going on in the mod world, touch on a few specific topics that interest us, and hopefully interest you too. Today with us, we're going to have Brian Carter, also known as Boddaker, with us, but life may have stepped in the way, but we've got the door still held open, which is no problem at all if he wants to pop in, and if not, we can have him on at another time. But today with us, we do have Bill Owen.
Hey everybody, glad to be back, and look over there.
We've got the modding mosquito.
Hey, that's me.
Yeah.
I don't know why I'm here. I mean, it's really nice outside, and yesterday it was rainy and crappy all day. And so I left the cabin, and it was nice and sunny. A little bit muggy, but it was still nice and sunny. And I could have gone on the boat. But I'm here for you guys.
Thank you. So when is officially your last weekend at the cabin, then?
I think this year, October 15th, ends up on a Monday or something like that. So it'll be middle of October is when we shut the cabin down, because they turn the water off to where we are, and then you have to bring your own water in if you want to flush, and that's just annoying.
Oh, that's cool. Well, you had missed like the last two hangouts. We had Mick, and then we had David. Anybody else you missed?
I don't think so. I think it was just those two.
Okay. And the one with David, that was a tough one because we had to start it 2 hours later. No, actually 3 hours later because he's in Taiwan and he had to get up, and then his IBM laptop battery died during the hangout. So that was interesting.
Yeah, we was at work, and if the internal battery goes, it's a nightmare because a lot of the components inside you can't change out. It's all soldered to the board, and you are pretty well in trouble no matter what.
Holy cow, man!
Not a fan of the new Lenovo's.
Well, considering that Moss wasn't here for the last two episodes, the topic for today's episode was generated by Moss. Want to tell us more the details on this?
I guess the idea behind it was just kind of to talk about, like, especially I think for some of the newcomers or maybe even some of the older guys out there in the modding scene, you know, it's like things were a lot different even 5 years ago, I feel. Like, you know, there's a lot of stuff that's changed in modding in the last couple of years, especially as things like CNCs and 3D printers and laser cutters all get to be more and more accessible to people like me or Droog, or not so much Bill because he's got his own kind of shop and produces his own parts and stuff, but you know, it's just to the average consumer, lasers are still a little bit of a stretch, but there's still easy access to people that have lasers, and you can go out and find somebody with a laser cutter or a CNC that's willing to make parts, or you know, buy your own 3D printer. So I think that's one thing that's changed things, and the availability of parts, like computer cases, for example, where, oh, you mean I can just go to the store and buy a computer case off the shelf, and I can throw a 360 millimeter radiator in it? Sweet.
Yeah.
I mean,
or more than that.
Yeah, and it's like, yeah, it's true, even 480s and 560s, but it's like it used to be the only time you could fit a radiator is if you physically took the case and cut a hole in it to put a radiator. So I guess that was kind of the idea behind this episode's topic, was just to sort of chat about where things came from and where they're going and what's changed. I don't know, I just thought it'd be interesting.
No, it's a great topic, and you made a note when you suggested you had little bullet points, and one of it was cranky old man, get off my lawn.
So that was actually Jeremy's comment, I believe.
Yes, because when I started paying attention to the modding world, we had our very own cranky old man on the Pimp Rig forums, went by the name of Big Akita, who did a good job of keeping the whippersnappers in shape, yes, and I'm seeing that it's an interesting blend of some of the old guys who have come up through, who are playing the old man, cranky old man card every now and again and telling the young guys exactly how it's supposed to go, versus the old guys who are just holding everyone's hands and just ushering them in. And just what I like about Bill is kind of a really great blend between the two, where he's not afraid to call someone down to the carpet if they're screwing up really badly, but will make sure that he's telling the way things really should be.
I can
For a
be
second,
cranky though.
I was gonna say, for a second I thought you were just gonna call him old and cranky.
Old and crusty.
Cranky old Bill. Ah.
I can be, man, and I'm getting up there in my age. You wouldn't know looking at my baby face, though, would you? No.
Well, if you took your hat off, maybe.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah. You know, I'll tell you this. Okay, the one, and when I read that, the one thing that came to my mind was, by the way, Brian is alive. He just acknowledged, and there's a little snafu on the timing. So hopefully he'll log in still here, or he'll not. But I'm sure he will. In any case, to me, I'm not seeing enough of the fabrication element with case modding that I used to see, and as Moss alluded to, you know, the retailers have finally acknowledged the things that we want to put in cases. So you don't have to get a jigsaw and a hand file and a Dremel and cut out a chassis like you used to. But I miss that because that's how I got into this hobby and how I learned it. And I like tools and I like cutting up stuff, and I think that's what's disappeared. And there was an argument there about the people that had CNCs and lasers that wasn't modding because they were using that type of equipment to do that work. Now there's that's a whole discussion in itself again, which we've had in the past Hangout. But I'm just saying that today I don't see enough people actually cutting up a chassis. Yeah, you may get a chassis that allows 2 360 radiators in it, but maybe you still want to do something really outrageous where you're going to even cut up that chassis and do something different versus just using what the manufacturers created.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I really enjoy about modding. That's one of those things that I really get out of it is just it's the doing something side of it. Rather, I mean, it's like I have a lot of mods. I've done a lot of mods. I've done more scratch builds than I have mods. But either way, I've built a lot of systems that just end up sort of sitting on a shelf because I don't really care to use them. I just want to build it. And it's the actual physical building of the system that I enjoy more than anything, rather than having a computer. And I think that's one of the big shifts recently is people just want to have a really cool computer and they don't really care about how they get there. It's more about having it than it is making it. So I think that's one of those shifts that I feel like I've been seeing anyway. Maybe that's not completely accurate. And obviously, I mean, we don't want to go and offend everybody. Just to put that out there, we're not saying that nobody mods anymore. It's just the mass market seems to have changed. It used to be a lot of people into more hardcore, I guess, modding, cutting things up and doing all that kind of stuff like Bill was talking about. It just seems like there's a lot more bolt-on accessories and lighting and water cooling and call it done sort of a thing.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
All you need is a screwdriver.
Back in my day, bolt-on meant you actually bought the bolts and you put the screw holes in place yourself.
Yeah, I remember Bill's Greenlee knockout punch videos and his...
Oh, my God. And that I sold that on eBay several years ago. So if that doesn't validate where the change has come, and as a manufacturer of like accessories for people that mod their cases, I've said this to a lot of you that are my friends, is that the products that only require a screwdriver at the maximum, those are the products that sell. People don't want to cut up stuff anymore. I mean, when I first launched MMPC Tech, I had all these like raw material supplies, and that end of the business is diminishing. So.
Well, it's been quite interesting to watch how, from my side, where most of the mods that I have done have been the practical mods, wiggling the panels a little bit to get more room for wires, things like that, and seeing how the complaining that we've done about wow, I just completely lost a word, but the stuff that behind the scenes inside the computer, where you would hide all of the wires and everything like that, watching how the manufacturers have been starting to slowly pay more and more attention to our complaints about that. Providing us with the grommets in the back so you can have the water pass through if that's what you're going to do, hanging everything off of the back if that's what you're going to do, which I don't know why you would do that these days. But
don't do that.
You're going to move the PC. Do not.
Mod the case and put it inside.
I've actually seen the photographic evidence of what can happen when you're using acrylic for one of those setups and you swing the case around to show somebody and snag that radiator against a wall. It's not pleasant.
Although this thing might have to go outside the case. I'm not exactly sure where the hell I'm going to put this yet, but it was a good deal.
I think you can get 3 or 4 more of those and build a case around, out of those.
Yes. This is what, a 540 because it's 380 millimeters. Not sure why I bought that. Anybody that follows any of my stuff knows that most of what I do is ITX.
I could easily cool my Toyota's engine with that.
I think that's part of the fun.
Yeah, Katie agrees too.
Jeez.
Well, I think, and where the hobby has gone is what's really keeping it alive is the liquid cooling end of it, the DIY loops, and that's where a lot of people feel that they're getting that creative bend to, no pun intended, to pick out the different types of components, But is that really modding? I guess, yeah, it is. I mean, you're modifying your cooling system,
I think that, yeah. It's one of those things that's kind of gets a little fuzzy because water cooling is still very much an enthusiast thing. Regardless of what any manufacturer of water cooling parts tries to tell you, you have to be pretty into it to actually water cool your computer from scratch. Like, you can buy a kit, but it still requires a decent amount of figuring stuff out on your own. So, but at the same time, the parts are so easy to work with these days that you really don't have to do anything anymore either. Like, water blocks just fit. Fittings just work, So at the same time,
tubing, right?
Pretty much. Tubing and which fittings you use. Other than that, I don't know.
Cool. It looks like Brian's logging in, and he's just he'll be with us shortly. So he was able to make it with us. Hey, buddy, we can hear you. We don't see you, though. Turn your camera on.
I do not have a camera.
You don't have a webcam.
I'm sorry.
Well, at least you got the appropriate avatar. No webcam at all?
No, sorry. Haven't gotten that far into the technology yet.
Oh, really?
Speaking of old guys.
Yeah, that's true. Brian goes back, I was trying to think of, like, when I first knew of you, and I know you were more active on Gruntville than pimprig.com.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah, and what would you say, like, 2000, 2001, about that time?
Yeah, I think it was probably more like 2004, 2003, 2004 I started hanging out there because my first mod was around the last 2004 with the side view case.
Oh, yeah. Now, here's the thing, Brian. Now, by the way, do you realize that your website isn't working currently?
Yes, I do. I've had that under construction message there for quite a while now.
But no, there's good news. There's good news because I thought, well, what I could do is I could screen share some of these builds that Brian's done over the last 12 years through his website, and then his website's down. But Google, it's all in Google though, because you've had so many different projects that have been published on different sites. And Drew, you had some props. You got to tell Brian what your props were in regards to his work logs.
Oh yeah, every time, because I found, 6 or 7 different forum listings on the first couple of Google pages, and every single one of them that I went into, all of the images are still working, and that never, ever
nice.
Did you know that, Brian?
Well, they're still on my website, still in the same location, so the links should still be good, even though the site's not up.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the good news is on his website, Bill, if you follow one of the specific links for like the BSG-1.html, that'll take you in to see the photos.
All right, that's cool. I think it's even more cool that we can actually use Google Images to see his work. And now this is
Nice.
the topic that we're discussing, and you're a great candidate because you've been around in this hobby as long as I have. You're one of the modding dinosaurs like myself. Is that
Mhm.
you and I were brought up using community forums to do our project logs.
Right, and I still do. I still use them.
Yes, you do. And a lot of people have transitioned to Facebook, their Facebook wall or Facebook groups.
Right.
And the thing is, you're proof, and I'm proof, Mosquito's been leaving his legacy in Google too, is that our work can be discovered through Google because of these online work logs that you've done versus just putting everything in Facebook, where the people on Facebook, you're not going to find their stuff.
Yeah. You have to physically look through their gallery if they even have pictures in their gallery. But I use Facebook just as a pointer to my forum work logs, because I just post up one picture, say here's what I'm doing, and if you want to hear or see more, go to this page.
Absolutely. Yeah, and
All
right
right, look
now,
at that.
yeah, it's a beauty. And
Nice.
I'll tell you what, Brian, why don't you tell us about how you when and how you got into modding? Tell us like the backstory, and then we'll just cruise some of your builds here on Google.
Well, like a lot of different other modders, I started with a hot rod background, and my dad was a mechanic for United Airlines for 30 some odd years, and so he was a do-it-yourselfer, from the get-go, and I just kind of followed in his footsteps just by, learning and watching what he did. I mean, he fixed the family cars to the point where, if the transmission went out in the station wagon, he took the whole dang thing apart. Every piece was laid out on the workbench, and he fixed it and put it all back together and got another 50,000 miles at least on the thing. I mean, that's how do-it-yourselfer he was. And so, when I got into high school, I got my first car, and it was the AMC Javelin, the 71. I still have, by the way. Learned to drive in it, and I was a hot rodder, so I picked the thing up, and all my friends, we hung out with. My friend had a Mustang, a 65 Mustang. My other friend had a 65 Satellite. Um, so we all just hung out and did that, and we were racing and doing all that stuff. Well, when we got into paintball, we were doing all that stuff too, and then when the computers started getting to the point where we could do some gaming online, we figured, oh, we don't have to go out in the field and shoot each other. We can just do it on the screen, right? So we started doing all the LAN parties just with the 5 of us, and it was only a matter of time before we figured that, oh, we could hot rod our PCs. And so I was the first one to put a window and a light inside my case, and started doing all the dress up stuff, and that was pre side view. The main reason the side view case came about was from the LAN parties. We had like one table to fit all these CRTs on it, and so I figured, okay, well, if I consolidated my monitor into the case, I could save some desk real estate and actually make more room for other players. And so that's how that came about. And so when I started doing that, I kind of got more into it, and once I was on Gruntville, seeing what other people were doing with their cases, it just just snowballed from there. And I thought, okay, what else can I do? And so I started making a case for my mom, then a case for my dad, and just took off from there.
Mm-hmm. And then you started also doing commission stuff too, and like for events and manufacturers as well.
Yeah, I attended a few LAN parties and got the attention of some of the company representatives there. And they said, oh, well, like EVG, I think, was my first official sponsor. Joe Darwin was there, and he came over and talked to me. And I think at that time I had the Mystique case or the 737 case. I think it was one of the Showdown lands or something in the Bay Area. And I started chatting with him, and he's like, "Oh, we'd like to, sponsor you with a card for your next build." And I'm like, "Sweet, that's awesome." So I started doing stuff for them, and just going off from there.
Mm-hmm. And I know that when we were just talking earlier about how the evolution of the modder and like the resources and tools that have changed since you and I first got in this hobby. And I know that you were using your basic hand tools like I was,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
over time you started using different resources for certain projects, like whether it be laser cutting or CNC, and then you ended up getting your own 3D printer, right?
Yeah, just recently I bought that actually from one of the CPU mod contest winnings. I used that money to buy the 3D printer.
Uh-huh. And
I
so
haven't had a chance to work too much on it.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, I've been just so busy with a lot of other things that I haven't had a chance to just sit down and design some things specifically for the 3D printer. I mean, the first really real object I made with it was the rose printout for my daughter's case I just finished.
Oh yeah. What is the name of that project? Because you have the work log on the modzu.com.
Just the rose.
Okay, cool. I'll bring up the work log. From your experience, and I was just the guy stopped me from getting into like a cranky old man mode about people today in mods, and like they're not cutting up cases as much as we used to, and it's so much easier because the manufacturers are, supplying that stuff. What is your thoughts on that? What do you think about when you see like the new builds today by other people, the younger kids and all that?
I don't think it's very much different than, that outcome-wise than what we did. I mean, they're still producing really cool looking cases, and however they want to go about doing it is fine. I mean, it's just what you're used to, and people now are coming out, they're using a lot of the laser cutting and more of the mechanical part of it, maybe because they haven't had the time to practice with regular old hand tools. I don't know, but if that's what they're comfortable with, and what they produce great results with, then more power to them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're cool with it. Yeah, and I am too. But I was saying I do miss seeing more people like what you're exhibiting right here in the Rose work log is modifying the chassis. Yes, you were given options by the manufacturer for radiators and stuff, but you're still going in there to chop it up to make it your own.
Mm-hmm. Well, I let the theme dictate that. I mean, I came up with a design, and it required the removal of 3/4 of the case.
Yeah.
So that's what I do. But I try to retain a lot of the original character of the case, like like the Cosmos Cruiser. I mean, it had a lot of things. I mean, I pretty much rebuilt the entire case from the ground up.
You've done that in all your stuff.
Like Cosmos 2.
Sorta. I get totally.
If you squint real hard at it, you might be able to make out the original shape.
I think
for those it looks like a Cosmos 2 when you're done, but secretly you actually started with a 900D. Nobody knows.
Yeah. I mean, I think what it is too. I think it's therapeutic. This hobby, you get into the zone, everything else around you just melts away, and what you're doing here with the Rose, that could have been done as a scratch build, but you're like me, you come from that hot rod tuning, customizing upbringing, and you see what something else in that same framework. And I guess I personally, I kind of miss, I don't see enough people doing that today. Yeah, there is a handful, but most people aren't because, well, geez, that would take forever. I don't have time to do something like that.
Right.
But you're looking at it a different way.
Time is a big factor in stuff like this.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, and one thing I know about you is that you when you get into a project, you get into it. You let the project kind of dictate when it gets done. It gets done when you're ready to it gets done, unless it's for like a specific deadline. You know.
Yeah, yeah. Well, the Cosmos Cruiser took like 2.5 years until I
Yeah.
finally finished it.
Well,
I mean, I did have some commission builds in between there. I had to step down and do other projects and put it on the shelf for a month or two here and there. But
yeah.
still, I mean, that was a long time, and I think I went through like 2 or 3 generations of video cards before the thing got
Oh,
completed. So the thing still has 680s in it right now because I built the components around those cards, and so I can't really use anything else other than that model.
mhm.
So I'm kind of stuck with old hardware now.
Oh, I hear you. I've been in that same boat too, where the wave, the technology, especially if GPUs changes while a project is in the works,
Mhm.
and you, luckily enough, that was your own build, and you suddenly weren't dictated by somebody saying, well, yeah, I know we talked about using 680s, but I want to go with the next gen instead. And like, well, you do realize that we designed water blocks for these 680s, which took several hours. Yeah,
Right.
that's funny, man. So this is Rose's computer. Is this her first PC?
She's had. I built a Kylan little tiny mini PC for her, when she was like 3 years old, which she just played, on the TV, but it wasn't really anything huge. But yeah, this basically is her first major PC that she can do everything with.
Yeah, and
She plays Minecraft and some other Lego Star Wars, those types of things right now.
mhm. Was she watching? Did she care to watch the progress once in a while, or is it pretty much like, I'll look at it when it's done?
Oh, she was in the garage probably every day going, is it done yet? Is it done yet?
Did you ever
But
say,
yeah,
okay,
she
this is for
helped.
you. You got to work on it too.
Yeah, I put her to work here and there, doing a couple things that she could do.
What did she work on?
She helped with those rose printouts, and uh, I think she helped with the color scheme and more of the preliminary design aspects of it. Um, but yeah, and I actually, or she let me use her uh, purple duct tape for the covering of the PCI flex cable.
That's cool. Looking at this, okay, this is,
So,
I remember doing cuts like this like years ago, dude. Like
oh yeah,
this is what separates Brian from your average human being, okay? He's on a mission to cut this design, and he's just taking methodically plotting along with power tools to do this versus taking it to a CNC or having somebody else do it. You know?
well, that came out of necessity because I had the that panel welded together, and I couldn't put it
Mm,
into where these rose patterns were. I couldn't use my scroll saw because it wouldn't fit in the machine, and so
mm,
I couldn't take that thing and probably give it to a CNC shop and have him
mm,
do it. I would
mm.
have had to have him do it prior to
Yeah.
putting the whole thing together or bending it, starting from the flat sheet. But of course, I didn't really think that far ahead. Um, so yeah, this is pretty much the way I ended up doing it, just cutting it,
Yeah,
uh,
I see
just
this
using those
now.
tools.
I would look at that and go, that's like a weekend to me. And I just like I couldn't do that, but I understand though when you're into it, like I said, the time just melts around you and you're in the zone, It's just,
Hmm.
and that's one of the great things.
Yeah, it didn't really take as long as I thought it would. Once I got into the zone, I was, you know, uh, doing it, and I probably got through 2 of those rose patterns a night, and then went back and cleaned up and stuff. But yeah, it took probably a good 2 weeks total,
Hmm.
just going in and working on it and
Hmm.
smoothing it out and all that stuff. Um, but it was worth it because I didn't want to put an external fan grill on that. I wanted to integrate it into that panel, and just to get that clean look. So there really wasn't any other alternative. So I just pushed through it and got it done.
Yeah, and I love this design. In fact, Pazlis about maybe 3 years ago or so, who's I believe he's in the Netherlands, and he does work logs on BitTech, or he did. He had a similar design. I can't remember what he called it, but we did this similar angled chassis where the motherboard was angled like this. And I was talking to actually a CEO of a case manufacturer on Skype, and I showed him it, and I said, you should manufacture a case that does this. This is so cool. And I love these standoffs. What are these standoffs that you used?
I searched online for some glass shelving posts, and there's a site, I can't remember exactly what it's called right now, but it has those aluminum, billet aluminum posts with the tops on them, all different lengths and diameters. And so I just picked the ones that fit the case the best.
Those are badass. Yeah, that is really clever.
Hey, Bill, can you restart your screen share?
I'm sorry. Oops. Oopsie.
Crashed out on the feed.
Oh, okay. We'll have to share that because we were just talking about these. These stand-offs are really awesome. Let's see. Sorry. Anyways, Droog Moss, got any questions for Brian while he's here?
I was just going to comment, this is what happens when you let old modders with new technology.
Yes. Now I was going to say, looking through your older cases, man, that BSG case, that is a thing of friggin' beauty.
Thanks. Yeah, that took a while to do all those greebles and ribs.
Yeah, that was one of your first big ones that really got you a lot of notoriety.
Yeah, I think that was my third or fourth case. I used the Cosmos case, or the stacker case that I had won from the first Cooler Master contest I was in. That was with the Mystique case, and I won first place with that, and so they gave me the stacker case, and as well as a bunch of other hardware for prizes. So that was what was the result of that.
And on the topic of things that have changed, that was the original stacker case, not the half stacker case.
Right.
the good one.
Yeah. Or I think, wasn't that a stacker too? I think the original stacker was more rectangular shaped or whatever, but
yeah. I think wasn't it this. Am I thinking of it the right case? The Stacker 2, the one that I saw a bunch of they had a whole bunch of custom themed versions of that case. Like one of them, somebody had turned in to look like a VW bus. I think was one of them.
Yeah, it was a paint place up in Oregon. I can't remember.
Oh, I remember that.
But they contracted with Cooler Master to put out some of those airbrushed cases.
Yeah. Oh man. Something. Oh, dude. Something Creations.
Smooth Creations.
Smooth Creations, yeah. And they did they were always doing the custom paint for the Maximum PC Dream Machine builds.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, but they way overpriced those things. Right now we're looking at the Battlestar case mod. One of you guys needs to hit your mute. You use Owens Corning insulation. That is a lot of work, dude.
Yeah. I use an electric kitchen knife to carve that down.
Yeah. It's so messy too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, isn't that the same stuff that you did your flaming skull thing?
Yes, it's true. That's why I know it's a pain in the ass. Yeah, and then I used fiberglass body filler to fill up all the pores in it after we carved it, and I did something else with it too. But but at the time, it's like this whole cosplay thing, which has brought in an education of all these different crafting materials that I'm still learning about. That
Mhm.
didn't exist when we were doing this stuff. I mean,
Yeah.
it's like we had to draw from like what we knew from like the car realm, like body work, you know.
Yep. Bondo. I use that still quite a bit.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I remember watching this. Yeah, yeah, it
That
was
was fun. That
crazy.
was my first foray with styrene. I
Oh
found that in the hobby shops, and I love that stuff. It's so soft and pliable. You can do anything with it with a slight amount of heat. It's awesome, awesome stuff to work with.
yeah, came from model
Mhm.
railroaders. You were using that stuff for scenery and that.
Yeah, yeah.
So, Brian, what all-time favorite build, man? Out of all the stuff you've done.
Um, Gosh, I
Yeah.
think the Tron light cycle is probably my
Oh
favorite.
yeah, 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 yeah.
The Cosmos is a close second, but I think the uh, Tron light cycle is the most fun I've had with one. Even though a lot of it was laser cut, I mean, I still had to do a lot of fabrication to, with the fairings and getting the hardware in there, and just making it, glow with the tubes, the lighting, just all that stuff was so much fun to work with.
Hmm.
See, I thought the coolest part of that one was that radiator, because didn't you have the curved radiator in that one?
Yep, yep. That was something out of necessity. I had to figure something out of where I was going to put this radiator. And I was like, "There's no room for it in the center." So I'm like, "Okay, I see this huge cavity around the tube where the tires are," and I'm like, "How about if I just try and make a curved radiator? Was that possible?" And so I, started working on that, and uh, Primo Chill, Brian Farrell, he said, "Oh yeah, my one of my guys can weld something up for you." I'm like, "Really?" So I made up a 3D design and sent it to him, and he made it up for me and got it to work.
Wow, where is this right now?
It is in my garage on a shelf on display.
Yeah, that's usually where most of the stuff ends up. On our shelves somewhere. Yeah,
Yeah.
something like this. I mean, okay, let's say if there was to be like a touring exhibit of technology, art style technology, would you be open to allowing like it to tour with like or be at a museum?
Um, yes and no. I would be just more worried about the transport aspect of it,
Oh yeah.
because I've had this thing go to Taiwan and back, and it did not come back the same way that it went.
Oh.
So yeah, I'm kind of leery about sending anything through through the mail or FedEx or UPS, anything
Yeah,
anymore.
it's one of those things where you can control how it gets sent there, but as
Right.
soon as it gets there and they have to repack it, it's completely out of your control.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. At least he got his computer back.
Right.
It's true.
Yeah.
One of mine
Uh,
I didn't get back from CeBIT. Um, and that's a topic that comes up once in a while that I want to have on the Hangout about how to properly package and crate, box up
mhm.
a custom build for a trade show, because even if you're not doing it for events or something, let's say that you want to go to PDX land, but you can't, you're going to take a flight and you want to ship it there in advance, or you've sold your custom PC to somebody else in the community and you have to ship it to them. And a lot
Mhm.
of times what happens is you did a liquid loop, but that individual is like, can you ship it with the liquid in it so I don't have to refill it? And
A lot of places won't ship it with the liquid in it. They make you drain it.
yeah, yeah, yep. Um, One thing I learned is, and one of my last builds that I did, that got damaged by UPS, and I made the extent to put it in a crate and have all the proper packing inside of it. It was in a freaking crate, and from what I understand, it was dropped. It was dropped by UPS at some point. Could have been dropped off a truck, a forklift. I don't know. They would never say. I thought that I had done everything I could, but then I later found out because I talked to right after the accident happened, and going to fight with UPS over the claim, because that's what it is. It's a battle. You have to justify, well, why is this much money for a computer? Well, I mean, what was so special about it? And you have to go into that defense attorney mode with the UPS claims people.
Yeah.
Is I thought, okay, I'm going to reach out to some companies that ship like Main Gear. Main Gear was one, and Origin PC. I talked to those guys, and I said, they explained the situation, and they both told me, Bill, this is what you need to do from now on. When you ship one of those systems, you've got to strap it onto a crate. It's the least you can do is put it in a crate, but make sure that's strapped onto a crate, so they're forced to use a hand truck or a forklift to move it around versus carrying it. That's all you can do.
You mean like a pallet?
Yeah, a pallet. Yeah, I'm sorry, a pallet. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
By the way, you're still sharing your screen.
Yeah. No, I know. I wanted to. That's.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because you look at this thing and you can understand his concern about shipping it.
Yeah, and it's a long. I mean, it's like 38, 40 inches long. So it's it's pretty substantial. And once you get like 2 to 3 inches of packing around it, it gets to be a large box.
Yep. Yeah, I'm going to be doing a couple of World War I tanks coming up here, and they're going to be about 4 feet long because they need to fit ATX power supply and ATX motherboard, and they've got to both go overseas. So at that point, I can't even think about like what it's going to cost, because they're going to pay. They obviously cover the transit for it, but yeah, it's like the worst feeling in the world when you spend like months on something and then you've got to let it go and trust these strangers to handle it. And then these trade shows, they use they use union people to move the stuff around because they're forced to for these different events. And then the people that work trade shows for the manufacturers, they don't necessarily always care. It's
Right.
like, last day, oh man, I got to pack this whole thing up. It's like, oh, maybe I'll just skip a few steps here, and just hope for the best.
Yeah, that's scary.
It is. Yeah. Yeah. So other than Rose, what else are you working on? Anything else, Brian?
I'm doing some stuff for NVIDIA right now that I can't really say.
Right, NDA.
So I'm keeping busy doing that. And after that, I have some fixes that I need to address on the Rose case, as well as my son's R2D2 case. Yeah, I have a lot of builds in the garage that need a little something here and there. So I think I want to just, before I take on another whole project, I want to get some of those back there up and running and finally done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Did you go to PDX? You've gone to PDX Land before, haven't you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I try and go twice a year.
When are you going to go? When is their next one that you're going to attend?
The next one is November. They do a charity LAN in November, but I usually skip that one and go to the February and July LANs. Just because there's so much going on. My son's birthday is the end of November, and of course Thanksgiving and all that stuff. I can't really get away to another LAN, a third LAN up in Portland. It's an 8-hour drive from here, so it takes quite a bit of effort to get there. So I can only do it twice a year.
Mm-hmm. And that's pretty much considered like the SEMA show. What SEMA is to custom car shows in Vegas. That's pretty much PDX Land if you want to see all the best talented PC modders and customizers there, right?
Yeah. I don't know what it is about the area, but there are a lot of talented modders that go there and show their work. It's amazing, and to get in the top 5 of the CPU mod contest is a feat in and of itself, much less actually winning.
Yeah, it's all the best is there for sure.
Yeah. My daughter's Rose case took 3rd place in July, and so I was pretty proud of that, considering the fact that I totally rushed it to get it done. I was actually surprised I made 3rd place with it.
Do you ever
go ahead.
I was like, do you ever find that the theme that you go for highly impacts what people think of it. Like, you might be super proud of something you did, but because nobody else really understands it, it just never goes anywhere.
Um, I don't know. I think I've been lucky in choosing themes that people have really related to. So I don't know. I don't think I've done anything where people were like, "What the heck is that?" type of a thing. Um, I think there was one I did for Thermal Take that was to mimic their uh, what was that mouse that BMW helped design?
Oh, the
Uh,
level 10.
the level 10 mouse. Yeah, I made a computer case out of their, or I made the computer case look like that mouse, and it was at in Vegas at their show. Um, but it didn't, didn't get well received, I guess, because they didn't really understand what I was doing.
The public didn't, you're saying?
Yeah, yeah, I had the work log, and everyone's like, I don't know what you're doing there, but I'm like, well, it looks like the mouse, so figure it out.
What do you think about, like, did you follow any of the thermal take controversy over like case labs and stuff like that? Did you have any thoughts on that?
Um, yeah, I was kind of looking at that on Facebook, and uh, yeah, there were some similarities there between Case Labs cases and Thermal Take cases. Um, but I think they actually went back and redesigned it. I
Mm-hmm.
noticed there's a couple of other little things that they changed on the case before it actually.
Mm-hmm. Before it went retail, yeah.
Came out than the Case Labs cases.
Mm-hmm. Have you ever worked on a case labs case?
I have not. That
Would you like to?
I wouldn't mind working on one of those.
Yeah.
I think they're really, really good cases. I mean,
Yeah.
high quality, and especially the smaller ones that they came out with.
Yeah.
He displays them at PDX Land, and I was checking them out last time I was there. They're really cool.
Yeah. I don't think he really did. He realize who you were when you're checking them out?
Um, yeah, I'm pretty sure he did.
Well, I
I
gotta
didn't really
tell
get a
him.
chance to look at or talk to him that much. He was busy with
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
ton of other stuff and everything, so I was just kind of on looking from a distance and checking
Sure.
him out. But yeah, I mean, I don't think he would mind if I use one of his cases in one of my projects.
No, I think it'd be awesome. Because I was just thinking, has Brian ever worked on a case labs? Huh? Yeah. Well, I'm looking at Moss and I were looking at the Bullet. We really like the Bullet case that they just came out with this year. You know, the small one, the little ITX
Oh yeah.
mini ITX and
Mhm.
ATX. Yeah, and we're kind of excited to see it in person and brainstorm some ideas, huh, Moss?
Maybe eventually.
Yeah, yeah. So.
Yeah, I'm always looking. If I can do a smaller case, then I would, because I'm the bigger cases are, they're taking way too long. So I think, smaller form
Yeah,
factors.
isn't that true?
I'm trying to gravitate more towards the mini ITX builds.
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
I think, let's see, I think visible contrast was like, I think I finished that one almost 3 years ago, and that was the last non-ITX build I've done, I think, outside of case reviews, but those don't really count because those aren't mods. But yeah, like I think every single one of my mods since then has been ITX, just because everything, it seems like everything is cheaper, which is kind of nice. Like boards are cheaper. You only need one graphics card to fill up everything. You don't need a 1,000-watt power supply. You don't need to have, well, like I do a lot of wood scratch builds, so I don't need to have like 5 board feet of wood just to build a case. I can do it with like 2, and it's like,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, but admit it, you're also looking to maximize your shelf space too, to have a bigger collection.
That's right. The easier they are to tuck away where nobody can see it and go, hey, when did that one show up? The better.
Kyle's got a question for you, Brian. he wants to know what happened to the BSG case. Where is it currently?
That actually was sold to a person in LA who was part of the CGI companies down there. And I guess he's a really huge BSG fan and saw my case online and had to have it. So
Wow.
he bought it from me.
Right on. Right
Wow.
on.
And I had asked him, I'm like, so what do you plan to do with this? Is this going to be your gaming rig, or what's your plan with it? He was like, I don't really care what's in it. I just have to have it. I just want it. I'm like, okay, there you go.
That's great.
So he was more in love with the theme of it than the actual computer aspect of it.
Well, then in theory, you would expect that he would take better care of it then that way, right? Like,
Yeah, I'm sure
I
it's
don't
on
really
a
care
shelf
about
somewhere on display in his collection.
Leave it as is.
exactly.
Yeah.
Rather
that'd be
than
nice.
I just wanted the hardware that was in it for whatever reason.
Right.
What? No, you can't have it. Leave it alone.
Yeah. Have you sold any of your other builds to people?
Let's see. The minigun
Oh yeah.
Thermaltake case. Thermaltake bought it back from me because they paid me to build it. I think what was it? Or no, I did that for a contest and I came in second place in their little contest, and then they bought it back from me. So they sent me the case for free to actually do the work on it, and then they ended up purchasing
nice.
it from me. So that was cool.
That was
And I
really
think
nice.
it's still on display somewhere, as well as the Star Wars cases and the Borderlands case I did for them. They bought those.
Nice. Speaking of Star Wars, have you thought about, and you could still possibly be asked, but thought about like a Rogue One theme build in anticipation of the release in December?
That would be cool.
Yes.
I wouldn't mind doing something like that. In fact, when I saw The Force Awakens, I thought immediately when Rey was on that little portable hover bike dealie, the orange one, I think that would be the perfect case mod right there, because it's that shape. You can just see it. So if somebody hasn't done it yet, I might want to jump on that.
Yeah, and I could see you pulling that off.
Yeah, because it has a ton of detail aspects that I just go crazy on and try and make it as accurate as possible. Netting on the side, holding the tools, that kind of a thing.
Oh yeah, and when I was looking back on your mods and the Borderlands one, correct me if I'm wrong, but is that the first time you kind of delved into weathered and distressed theme?
Yeah, I used the rusting effect on that quite extensively. That was fun.
Isn't that great? Isn't it like it's like liberating to just like, oh man, I could just make this look like crap, and people think it was all on purpose.
Yep, hides a lot of mistakes that way.
Yeah, you don't have to worry about that one getting damaged.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, it is liberating that from that standpoint, and it's cool how people have now seen the art of doing weathered and distressed themes today because of sci-fi movies and games.
And it is an art, really, because you have to think about how something would deteriorate over time.
That's
how
right.
would the water come down and actually rust that piece of metal? So you got to think about, okay, water would flow and collect on the corners, so that's where the rust would be. You don't want to put something, somewhere where it doesn't look like it would be.
Exactly.
Created over time. So it takes a lot of forethought and visualization that way too. So it is an art in and of itself.
Yeah, it is to make it convincing, and it's really it's a mirror of what they do in Hollywood for these movies with the props.
Yeah, I get a lot of inspiration and stuff just watching behind the scenes footage and making of clips and stuff like that, just to see how they do it all.
We in a previous hangout we talked about what inspires you, and we were talking about mainly it was like music and movies. Wasn't that pretty much it, Drew? Movies and music was the big.
Oh yeah, and for me, for movies too, it wasn't so much like it's way too easy to say that Alien, the xenomorph from Alien would be the inspiration for a thing, but the shapes of the computer components, or maybe that silhouette that you see of the cat. I can't remember the cat's name, but something like
Jonesy.
Jonesy, yeah, where you would have that arched hat back as a primary shape within your case, or things like that. That's the kind of stuff that I like to see other people doing and using for their inspiration.
Mhm.
Or for music, it was Bill with The Wall. He used the marching hammer.
Yeah, remember that one. What about you, Brian? Like, if you could go back to like a movie that's you've never done a theme of, but always thought, man, it'd be really cool to do this.
Hmm. I don't know. That'd be
Sci-fi?
definitely sci-fi. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Probably Mad Max or something like that.
Oh, there you
Yeah, I know
go.
you've done stuff like that. So.
Yeah, well, I've never gotten to do like. I mean, it goes to show like with my career in business, how like the modding and this stuff, it's a small fraction of my extra time now. And the closest I got to do a Fury Road thing was to come up with a fan grill. That's all I've gotten to do. And like I had put together something because somebody was interested in having a giveaway done around the time that the movie had just came out, and I was like really excited for it. But then they're like, well, we went with somebody else because your quote was too big. I'm like, okay, so I don't get to do that. Yeah, I would still love to do Mad Max. Yeah, that would be so awesome. And then there's Eel Ambiance, who did the Clunk that was really inspired by Mad Max.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good call.
Another weathering and distressing type of a build, definitely.
Yeah, yeah. What
and the
about
Borderlands one was kind of like on those lines too.
Yeah, yeah. How about this? Do you like Escape from New York?
That it's been a long time since I've seen that.
Oh, well, you may have to revisit that one.
Yeah. I will.
I
gotta refresh my memory now.
Boy, yeah, we could go on about this. Sorry, I'm going down the rabbit hole. This is my favorite thing.
How about the Matrix?
Yeah, I've never done a Matrix one. Other people have.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen Morpheus' ship done. I've seen the Sentinels done. Those were really looking ones.
Yeah.
What about, I think Paul Capello did one, Matrix Rebirth or something like that, where they had the birthing pod on there.
Yeah, and Paul disappeared, man. I mean, the last I heard about him is he got into air gun rifles and stuff.
Oh, wow. Okay.
That whole trend. This brings up another thing too. And we've had this topic come up before of like a documentary about what we do, PC modding and customizing. And I would love to be behind something like that. Of course, it's time and money. Obviously, you would have to be in it because of your history in this community and hobby. But Paul Capello, he would have to we'd have to reconnect, find him again. Because there's these people over this last decade that were so influential when they hit the scene, and everybody gravitated to what they were doing, and there wasn't a lot of people that had that influence. You know?
Well, Paul was my main inspiration right from the get-go because I stumbled across his Doom build, and he was the one that turned me on to styrene and introduced me to that material to be used in model making and that stuff, and then he really opened my mind as to what could be possible with a case, and with all the rocks and just detail upon detail.
Yeah. Yep. You too, Droog. I know that's one of your favorite builds.
Yeah, the Mars City. Yep.
Yeah. So the thing is, when you think about a documentary, I know I got all the content in my mind that needs to be in a documentary to make it a good documentary. Of course, you got to have a little bit of drama, because you want to do a documentary that draws in people that really don't know about the hobby, like they're just discovering it. And I think what our hobby needs is like some type of just injection of that to kind of revive it again because of the community forums, the activity is dwindling so much now because of Facebook and Twitter that I feel that it's isolating our hobby where people aren't discovering it as easily as they used to. When you and I were into it, we had Maximum PC that would do a feature every month in the back of the magazine, and then the CPU magazine came onto the scene, and then there was all these tech blog sites that would feature our builds when we were finished, and you don't see that anymore. You know?
Yeah.
And that was another thing that we lost with Tech TV, that they would periodically on the screensavers would do a demonstration at least of Yoshi talking about cases he's seen and then recreating the effects.
Yeah. Do you remember Tech TV, Brian?
Yeah. Vaguely, I remember. I'd stumble across them and check out some of their episodes. It was cool. They talked mainly more about gaming and computers and stuff, right?
Yeah, for the most part, yeah.
It's probably on YouTube. There was Paul Capello was invited as a guest to come on there and talk about, I think it was the Matrix Rebirth build that he did. And John Crump from Gruntville, the creator, he was invited to go on Tech TV as well.
Yeah. That's right.
Yeah, Gruntville. The Gruntville and Pemprig days, there was a time when we first got into this, and that's how Droog and I are connected, is through Pemprig, is that though it was still BitTech at the time, Gruntville, Pemprig, and like a handful of other little sites where we all intermingled and shared our projects on all these different communities. And then you had the Case Mod, PC Mod specialty online shops. There was so many more, and like all that stuff, man, is gone. It's all gone now.
Yeah. It's crazy.
Yeah. What do you think? Does that make you feel sad, or?
Yeah, I think makes me feel more nostalgic, because that was, I'd peruse those sites all the time, and now there's like one or two things. Your site, your store, Primo Chill has a decent thing, and then Performance PCs, but that's pretty much it. Newegg has a couple things here and there, but that's more mainstream and not really too niche market specific for water cooling or anything like that.
Check out Mod My Mods, those guys that started last year. We've had them on the Hangout as well. Those guys are really good guys, and their store is expanding more and more.
Nice.
So everybody out there, Mod My Mods, those are good guys. Support them. They're really active with supporting builders and modders through social media, because again, that's where everything's kind of gravitating towards that. But luckily, we've got somebody like Brian and myself, Mosquito, and Droog too, to share work logs and forums still. So our projects can still be discovered by somebody in Google or Bing. There
you go.
So, you guys have any other questions for Brian?
Don't think so.
No, it was an honor to talk with you, though. I mean, somebody with this depth of history in the hobby, it's not often that we get to talk.
I appreciate you guys having me on.
Yeah, I think that's so awesome that you can go into Google Images and your work is all over in there, and you've got your bods-mods, bods-mods.com website. And where does the screen name Boddaker come from? Is that how you pronounce it, Boddaker or Boddaker?
Boddaker, yeah, that was from my early LAN party days. It was actually from the character in RoboCop, Clarence Boddaker. Oh, yeah. I don't think that's how he spelled his name. I just spelled it the way I thought it was spelled at the time, and so it just stuck. But yeah, I just liked that movie, and it was funny, and just needed a name, so I picked that one. Guns.
I gotta watch that. Okay, if you promise to watch Escape from New York again, the
Okay.
original one, Kurt Russell, I promise I'll watch the original RoboCop, and I'll have my son watch it with me too, as he's never seen it.
Yeah, it's pretty funny.
Yeah, and that's a theme in itself that could be done. And I heard that
Yeah.
the RoboCop movie that came out, what guys, like a year or two ago, wasn't so good.
Yeah,
Actually,
another cheesy remake, I think.
I gotta say, I went in expecting trash, and so that's probably why I was pleasantly surprised. It wasn't as bad as it could have been. That's not a ringing endorsement, but it wasn't as bad as I've heard some people say it was, and it wasn't as bad as it could have been.
That reminds me of the Star Trek Beyond, and like, oh, some people were really disappointed about that, and I just didn't listen to them. I went to it and I thought, it's decent for what it is. Take it for what it is. You know, it's just good entertainment.
Hmm. Yeah,
Did you
people
see
hype
it?
it up quite a bit, and then they get let down because their expectations are so high.
Did you see Star Trek Beyond yet, Brian?
I didn't.
I think you'll like it, man. What I walked away from it is that out of all the Star Trek movies, I felt that it had the best tech eye candy. All the tech, like this, the flight deck, the equipment, was all the best I'd seen. And I liked it from that standpoint because I look at movies like you. I look at details of things but the story itself was, it has holes in it, but it's a popcorn movie. It's just entertainment. Take it for what
Right.
it is.
Yeah. Cool.
So where can
I'll do
people
that.
find you if somebody watching discovers this and wants to check out your work?
I'm pretty much everything is on pdxland.net, as well as BitTech and the Modzu, as well as Facebook. I'm just on there as Brian Carter.
Mm-hmm. Do you have I thought you had a YouTube channel.
I did at one point, and it's probably still there. I just when Google took over YouTube, the whole password things that didn't really transfer over, and I tried numerous times to try and reconnect with it, and I haven't been successful, and I just never redid or did another channel since then. So another thing I have to work on my website and getting a decent YouTube channel going.
Yeah, because don't you have video production as part of your background?
That's what I do as a day job. Yes.
Or is it one of those things like, oh, I've done this already, I don't want to go home and do it?
Exactly. Yeah. I don't really have a decent video camera. If I did use one, I'd probably grab the one from work.
There you go.
To do some things, but I just don't really want to do that at home. I want to mod at home.
Right. You just want to zone out, not worry about editing video, and we can all relate to that. Yeah, it's a lot of work, man. Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm glad that you could join us today. This was awesome.
Thanks, Bill.
You bet. Is there anything else that you want to ask or say to everybody out there before we go?
No, just mod. That's pretty much it.
Just do it.
Just do it. Just mod it.
Yeah.
Make it happen. Make it your own.
Love to hear that. So anyone who hasn't been paying attention, you can find us at themodzu.com. We're on Twitter with the username themodzu, facebook.com/themodzu, and on Google Plus, if you happen to be roaming around there, we're also Gasp the Modzu. And we've got most of those bases covered. If you have any questions, comments, if you have suggestions for future topics, let us know about however you want to. We do pay attention to all of these channels. And basically, to mirror what Brian said, man, if there's something out there that's annoying you, fix it. Go cut it up. You mod that sumbitch up, and you make it yours. Have yourselves a good week, and we'll we won't see you next week because of the Labor Day holiday. We're taking Sunday off, so we'll come back in 2 weeks. And if you have any suggestions, like I said, for future topics, any guests that you would like us to try to track down, throw those at us at our forums on themodzu.com. And that way we can get to work to provide you with more content that you want to see. Have a good one, guys.